Hi there, LinkedIn family. Jonathan here from Some Talented People. And in the cause of social Me Too, I'm glad that women are now starting to reach out to me. And I'm joined today by Shivani Bose. And we're going to be talking about, so I had no idea that in India, they've passed a law called the Prevention of Sexual Harassment, or the PoSH law. And Shivani is a big advocate and also does gender and bias training and coaching. So we're going to have a chat today about the law. And what I'd like from people watching this video is that obviously I don't know what laws are relevant in your area. So if there are things that are out there that I don't yet know about, please contact me and DM me, because I will then do a show with you. We can cover those points. So enough of me talking now. Shivani, say hello and who you are.
So I'm a certified PoSH trainer. What is PoSH? It is Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. It is an act which has been enacted by Indian government to prevent and any act of sexual harassment which happens at the workplace, and to protect and provide safety for women at workplace.
So
That's a bit about me.
Yeah, so let me ask you then, in terms of, so it's like, for example, so in a lot of developed economies, they have speed cameras and traffic light cameras. So if you go fast, yeah. So when you watch people's behavior, everyone is committing the crime until they see the camera, and then they comply for that short period of time. So how long has the PoSH law been in place in India?
So it was implemented on 9th of December 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was it that actually stimulated that? Because I understand India is not exclusive, it's Africa and Pakistan. The role of women, especially when they're young girls, there's FGM, there's child marriage, and that's just the stuff I get to hear about. So what was it that managed to get this law passed?
Okay, so what happened was there was an incident which happened which triggered the formation of this act. So what had happened is there was a woman known as Bhavri Devi, and she was working as a social worker in Rajasthan. She was trying to work against the social evils you mentioned about. She was primarily working against child marriage. And she was successful to stop the child marriage. There was an infant of just 10 months. So she was being forcibly married. And she tried to stop that. Unfortunately, she could stop it just for one night. The baby was married the very next day.
Oh my God.
And what happened because of that was she invited a lot of wrath of those people of so-called the high-end Gujjar society there. So India has a lot of castes there in which Gujjars are considered high caste society. They got very angry that a woman, that to a low caste woman, would tell them when they'll get their children married and not. So to probably provide her an adequate punishment, they reached the farms where she was working with her husband. So they were just doing the normal farming. And they gathered there with sticks and started mercilessly beating her husband.
Right.
And she tried to intervene there. She obviously, pleaded for help or mercy. And then that was the time she was brutally gang raped in front of her husband.
Wow.
So that's what happened. And then that was just the beginning of the ordeal she had. After that, she tried to launch an FIR. It was not easy. So FIR is like the first information report in the police station to, inform that the crime has happened. It was very difficult for her to even get the FIR done. So there's a physical inspection that happens that took hours. So nothing could be proved. And once it went to the court, again, the guilty were allowed to go scot-free. So this invited a lot of wrath among the Indian women. A lot of NGOs came together under the name of Vishakha, and they launched
Is that the name
Vishakha.
of the... Okay, was that the name of the girl or the woman?
No, it was not her name. Her name was Bhavri Devi, but they formed a special name for it and the name of Vishakha.
What does that mean?
So Vishakha does not have a specific meaning, but they just chose this name together.
Okay.
That we want to file only under this name. And they filed an application in the Supreme Court. The case went ahead. Unfortunately, the woman did not get justice. A lot of
No.
those accused people right now probably have even died because of old age. That's how old the case is. But she did not get justice. However, she paved the way for an act that came into our country known as Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, because a government recognized that, we need some kind of legislation to protect women against sexual harassment. And,
What?
like you rightly, yes.
No, carry on.
And like you rightly said, you need to have those red lights in place to ensure there is compliance. Similarly, you needed to have a law in place. Initially, Vishaka guidelines were there. We thought it would be a deterrent. It didn't help. We needed a law in place to ensure people are on the right side of behaving with women, to ensure safety of women at workplace.
Yeah.
And that's how the act has come into being.
So the things that concern me about laws being passed is that, generally speaking, they make something illegal when it's so common that it becomes a case that it needs to be a law. So, generally speaking, from your perspective, obviously you can only give your perspective. What is the situation, or what was the situation like for women at work up until this law, and probably going past it, but up until this law, what that specific example of a 10-month-old. So was that 10-month-old promised to the man that she was going to marry, or actually physically married at 10 months old?
So physically marrying a baby, as in, they just hand over to the boy's family, the baby is handed over.
And how old was the boy she was going to marry?
So I don't have complete information on that, but I know the boy would also be almost of similar age, because it's a child marriage that's very, very rampant in Rajasthan. So the cases have declined, but unfortunately it still very well continues because the social people have a lot of acceptance for it.
Indeed. I was reading Melinda Gates' book, The Moment of Lift, and I can't remember the number, but it's really high. It's like something like 10 million child marriages still take place every year. So...
Yes.
So when you say you're a PoSH registered trainer, what's involved, and who? So look, this Social Me Too that I'm doing, I don't expect to change a single man who's being abusive or sexual or what have you online. What I hope to do is to make it so that women understand that they are not alone in their experience, and by building a community, because victimization relies on isolation, on the idea that if you say anything, you might lose your job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's very pernicious. I spoke to a woman when I first started LinkedIn Me Too, and she was saying, "Oh well, no, actually." These guys have suffered and you want to be kind to them, not out them. And I said, I'm not looking to out them, but the behavior needs to be understood. So she told me a story whereby she had started working a company. Her direct line manager started direct messaging her several times every day,